Oh, hey, so how are we able to connect ourselves as a coach and at the same time realize that money addiction is an addiction and it is something we need to address as a society? Stay to the end to find out how that is something we're able to address as a world collectively. Welcome to the news. So are we supposed to try to address this collectively? Well, we first want to be able to try to address that ultimately we came from the spirit. We came from outer space. We came from places that are super duper ethereal. And once we are able to connect with this conceptualization that we are very much of the spirit and we are not necessarily humans, we are not defined, everything in the world is energy, that allows us to understand that money ultimately is an addiction, because in essence, when we've got the ability to understand that in essence, all we have in this life is our focus, and our focus corresponds to how we more or less spend our life and spend our attention, which is finite because time is finite, or at least it seems to be, hopefully until we can try to live in a more longer term basis outside of our physical realm. But anyway, if that's a thing that we want to address, we'll talk about that later. Nonetheless, if we're able to focus on how in this newswire episode, because our little podcast, our little newswire is connecting us to our audience and or our antennas to other aliens out there that are able to connect to our little feelers that we're putting out on this day-to-day basis type of a podcast situation, that it is understandable that we are talking about today a money addiction, and that money is an addiction, and money as an addiction, because after all, the idea that money is something that we should put any energy into or focus into is a distraction, and in essence it takes away time from spending time on just acknowledging that we're alive. That more or less is like kind of the fundamental asset in terms of thinking and thought and redirection and repurposing of physical action, and sort of the essence of what is entitled as manifesting connection to things that you have as goals and understandings of things that you might want to align with in this life. First, it aligns with the spirit and spirituality and an understanding of the ethereal zone, which is where we came from, where we all came from, and what we're a part of. And if we focus on money, if we're spending time focusing on money and this, that, the other thing, then we're ultimately distracted from the idea that money is such a distraction. And that's sort of the concept, is that money's an addiction because it's an addiction to waste time in essence. And I know this is very woo-woo, and it's off the beaten path, and it's less than credible, if you will, but if you don't have money, then you don't lose any focus. And if you don't have any things that are tied to any money or pegged in any money necessarily, like you make your own clothes out of leaves and you learn how to grow your own food and you live outside entirely 100% sustainably onto planet Earth, but you live next to society that all thrives off of money, and in essence you still live independently of all of society, of all of society's focus on money, that in essence all you're left with is the ability to focus on yourself, the ability to focus on nature, and the ability to focus on the idea that you're alive. That, in essence, is the biggest distraction that money takes away at all given times. By everybody obsessing and focusing on money most all of the time, they forget to acknowledge that they themselves, by needing to focus on everybody that is surrounded them in their circles that they have developed through this societal structure which revolves around getting money and the ability to just try to have also ultimately friendships and certain ways to conceptualize through, like, staying focused to be able to continue to triangulate around money, that there's a forgotten essence that we are humans, and a forgotten essence that everything that connects us to life corresponds to nature in essence, and not corresponds to a paycheck, not corresponds to anything in addiction. So in addition, if we want to actually fundamentally get into business in the best sense of connecting with business after all, and money after all, is by connecting with nature. The essence of becoming the best money maker after all connects with the essence of connecting with nature anyways. So it's like a little bit backwards, it's a little bit opposite. It's kind of like turning your back on money to try to make it to be attracted or to come closer in essence, to not care in essence about money, to be able to try to have it come closer in essence, because the essence of money, what it is trying to chase it, makes it run away. Whereas becoming markets, like actually fundamentally becoming market energy, being able to just first acknowledge that markets are energy, and then connecting with the idea that if you become a market, if you become one with a market, if you're trying to influence the demand and supply flow of a specific market flow, meaning just an energy flow, because energy is flowing in the direction that market demand exists, more or less. That's the nature of the flow of energy. It flows in the direction of demand. So that therefore corresponds to the idea of becoming a market. If you become a market, then you become part of that energy flow towards demand. And if you become part of that energy flow towards where demand is organically flowing like a river that's organically flowing in a given direction, that's the direction that demand is flowing in. And if you become part of what that energy feeding process is, if you become a tube that energy is flowing into and the demand is flowing into, in essence, then you, in essence, are a receptacle of the demand flow. You're a receptacle of the demand flow. And if you're a receptacle of the demand flow, then you're receiving the data and the input of the energy that's being put in the direction of the flow of the energy that the demand is flowing, that the market wants you to be feeding in that given direction, so that in essence you're repurposing and recycling the energy back to the origin of the market to be able to add value to the demand and give value to the demand energy. And by doing, in essence, less, in essence, by caring about the people in the markets, by caring about solving problems, by caring about adding value to life, by caring about first being a human and becoming one with nature and the earth, that in essence you're becoming one with all of the markets. And that therefore makes it so any energy flow, any given energy flow, makes it so you're not obsessing about money, you're obsessing about value. And ultimately you're not even really talking about money after all. You're just talking about being a human being and acknowledging all the systems within your body, acknowledging all the systems in the universe, acknowledging all the systems in any given energy flow within markets. And by becoming one with the universe, one with yourself, one with meditation, one with the essence of nature, you're becoming one with the essence of all of the markets and the energy flow of all markets, so that in essence you're not obsessing about money, because money addiction is an addiction with money in of itself. You're talking about nature in of itself when you're talking about monetary energy flow and becoming one with the markets. When you become one with the markets, you become one with nature. And so you're just acknowledging humanity at its greatest, fullest, finest sense. And so by acknowledging humanity at its fundamental sense of systematization, systematics, and everything around us in terms of energy flow and systems, then you're not even talking about money anymore. You're just not talking about money anymore. You're talking about energy. And fundamentally, you're realizing that you're a human because you're just an energy system among other energy systems. And when you understand that you are corresponding to all the energy systems in the universe, and you're just a sort of a vessel for all of these energy systems to occur within and around you and through you and for you and among you and for you and the universe that you are among, which is basically what you are also, because the universe can only be as big as you are in terms of your perception. Then you become one with the markets, and then you can see things like in the Matrix movie where the bullet is shot at the person and then the bullet stops in front of him because he realizes more or less the essence of nature flow and energy flow. And by becoming one with that energy flow and that nature flow, time, space, and energy does not serve in the same similar principles as it does necessarily in the physical realm. If you serve your mindset in the same money addiction, money flow mindset that has to do with risk and reward, and like reward after taking an action, which corresponds to something similar to like, you know, a dog pushing a lever to release food from a given like lever dispensary, for example, or so to speak, as opposed to just acknowledging humanity, being a humanity, and not trying, because ultimately you know that you can build a little house if necessary in the woods, and if you needed food, that you can grow it from the essence of knowing certain farming techniques, because you're one with nature, and nature is the one offering these abilities to grow plants, to be able to nourish yourself and eat food. And making shelter is also something that innately most men or people know how to do. So those two fundamental things can be covered if among nature, if being among nature, if being able to just take the time to step away from materialism, to be able to focus on being a nature person, being a nature vessel, being a conceptualization that relates to the universe. And by being a flow, by being a mindset flow, by not being specifically anything other than a flow, then you relinquish the essence of what money is and the essence of money addiction, because there's nothing except flow. There's nothing out there in the world, including ourselves, except the essence of flow. Money is trying to sell a depiction of something that is in a solid state, in a fixed solid state that has a resulting physical ending, resulting state that is an end paused state of lacking movement, which is an illusion in of itself, because even money is constantly in flow. The foreign exchange markets are constantly giving that idea and that impression of a monetary energy flow in value and fluctuation of consistency of movement. Consistency of movement is all that's consistent. So being consistent and a part of that movement, being consistent consistent with the flow of the river, and being consistently in motion with that ever-changing evolution of ever-present evolution and ever-present shifting of states, of dynamic state shifting states, that in essence you are becoming the markets, you're becoming the mindset of meditation, you're becoming the essence of flow, and you're being just fundamentally acknowledging that you're a human, and as a human you are energy flow systems, and more or less the money addiction that corresponds to governing many of the lives of sort of the directions of focuses for how people sort of use their life focus, if you will, is not wasted on money addiction. Money addiction has to do with the necessity that money is a necessity to begin with, and that therefore takes away and it withdraws from the idea that life is not meant to be lived with money to begin with or end with, and that money is just, in essence, like it's the byproduct of the energy flow realization, conceptualization that realistically we are humans and we are humanity, and all of our energy flow, including animal energy. Animal energy is very important. Animal energy, it's a flowing river. It's just a flowing river that reminds us that we are humans and we are humanity. And everything that has to do with money is a complete distraction. And everything that has to do with money, focus or thought, is an addiction. It's an addiction because it actually takes away from being able to serve in life as a human, as an energy system, as a flowing energy system, which in essence is a connection to being part of markets. And when you're part of markets, when you're part of everything, when you're part of flow in life, then in essence you're part of the energy flow that has to do with being a receptor and a recipient of demand. A recipient of demand, meaning you are a vessel. You are the circle that the river flows through, basically. You're the circle that the river flows through as more or less the vessel, that the demand energy of the river that is flowing in a specific direction. You are the receptacle of the demand energy that is flowing in a certain direction, and you are receiving that demand energy into your vessel, into your receptacle vessel. And as you're receiving that demand energy into your receptacle vessel, then you are becoming a conduit for that demand energy. You're becoming a conduit for that demand energy in this world of energy system flow, and that therefore makes you become the markets, and that therefore makes you become the best investor, the best receiver, and the best understander of monetary energy flow, nonetheless, in the short and the long-term sense. And that therefore also relinquishes money addiction, because you're not relinquishing the essence of the focus of, or you are able to, in other words, you get rid of the essence of the focus on money at any given time, because it's never about money. It's never was about money. Money is a symbol of the other things that you're focusing on when you're able to let go of the thought of money. That therefore allows you to focus on what actual value is, in essence, which are the energy system flows that you become when you become this state of flow and this mindset market shift into the mindset shift into markets in of itself. And so that therefore is the fundamental shift by relinquishing money and money thoughts and anything related to do with money, after all, that in essence empowers the actual concept of aligning with the money energy, with the monetary energy, by it being also part of every other energy in the whole world. And that therefore allows you to focus on being a human and humanity as its first and foremost focus, and a base of focus in presence of awareness, presence of mind, because any presence of focus on any money energy focus is a focus that in essence takes away from, withdraws from the essence of knowing and feeling and understanding that you are alive to begin with, and that's not worth wasting even 1 second of or for, especially when understanding that it's the least valuable way of looking at things. So that's the end of the newswire today. The newswire connecting us to our audience, if you will, and trying to strengthen the awareness between us and our audience, and developing more of a wire and a line and a connection and a connectivity from us to our audience, to where hopefully we grow a global philanthropy energy grid connection from us to our global audience, to the rest of the world, to the global philanthropy energy grid, and a connection to all animals and all animal spirits and all animal connections, and clearing the animal shelters and fostering animals to be able to help because fostering saves lives, and all to clear the animal shelters, and also to adopt shelter pets as well, but to share the news, spread the news, and clear the animal shelters, and please foster shelter animals as well, because their energy is just as important in the greater scheme of things, to be able to help us become markets and become one with markets, to be able to rid our world of the toxic energies and focus on the positive energies as best as possible, for the best possible outcomes and results and potential conceptual futures for all of us in the global philanthropy energy grid. That's all for now. Thanks again. Dink Tech, bye. Change for games, bye. Peace, bye. Change for games, Dink Tech, Change for Games Studios. Thanks again. Bye. Peace. Bye.